I'm good. How are you?
I'm splendid. Awesome. How does it feel to be back home?
It feels great. I haven't been home in a year, so this is great for me. Very happy.
That was hella not detailed.
No, it's that over the past year, I've moved from Boston to New York and haven't been to California since January. So I was like craving the vibe here so much, and it's so rewarding and different from living in New York and everything, and having been in Boston for the last 5 years.
The last time we spoke, you were in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
You're about to move to New York.
Yeah.
And how has the experience of being in New York affected you and your music?
I think on the performance side, there's a lot more venues in New York than there are in Boston. So I've been able to consistently sort of meet new fans. It's not the same group of people going to the same venues on the same days. It's like a very wide range of, different kinds of people who are just there to listen to good music. So it's really, really fun.
And do you feel that your fan base has expanded significantly then as a result?
Absolutely, yeah. In tandem with like the social media stuff and busking and doing like minor street teaming, just the amount of people that walk in and out of venues. Like for instance, Rockwood Music Hall doesn't have a cover, so anybody in the Lower East Side that just wants to come and grab a drink and sort of chance it on some music just walks in there and ends up discovering future of their favorite artist, which is cool. So.
And what are some artists that through playing in these venues you've gotten turned on to yourself?
Let's see, who have I seen? I went to Pianos and I saw a guy from London who happened to just be there for that one night, something Vargas, but I followed up on him. He had an amazing voice. But yeah.
There was a moment the other night when you're on stage with Chris, and Chris Turner's playing, The Park is playing, you come on stage and you guys are covering a Sly and the Family Stone song.
Yes.
And I had this sort of moment of like, this is hella dope because I see this new generation of local artists.
Yeah.
Paying tribute to an older generation and a really dynamic group in Sly and Family Stone. And I was curious, from your perspective, do you sense anything about building with these artists in a national arena, like Chris and Mara, and like you guys all sort of being in loose association with each other? Is there a sense that you guys are building something, or that you're a part of something?
Absolutely. I think in terms of, it's more than a loose, it's actually a really close association because Chris went to high school with my guitarist. Mara was my best friend growing up, and somehow through traveling and going about our separate business, we've still come back to the Bay, and it's just really awesome because when I was growing up, it wasn't necessarily like that. Like there wasn't a scene out here or artists that you could identify with or just see walking around the lake or anything like that. So I think it's not that Oakland wasn't ever on the map, but it's just very cool to hear people talking about it more in New York, Such a big city for people to know Mara's name and Chris's name and my name and, anybody we're associated with as well. So it's expanding and it's very, very cool.
Do you foresee a potential collaboration between all of you guys in some?
I hope so. I think that would be awesome. I've already begun to write with Chris a little bit, so that's definitely in the works. And Mara and I, we've, since we were 7, so our 4th grade teacher taught us how to knit. So we're in there. There's collaborations in the making. I hope that for sure.
Nice. Everything comes full circle.
Totally.
If you had to sort of unify your music or your approach to music under a theme, not so much of like a genre, but like a theme, Could you come up with something?
In terms of theme, I always imagine it as sort of this magical realm that is my head. That's why thematically in the music a lot of those sort of things come up, whether it's like, you know, Monster Killer or Alice in Wonderland or, you know, Black Sheep, things like that associated with like nursery rhymes and or movies. That's a very, very big influence in my life in terms of writing.
And given that, can you take us through your guitar?
Yeah. So this was a friend of mine named Kevin Donahue, who specializes in monsters specifically. We were hanging out in my kitchen, and I'd seen a lot of his work, and I just wanted something personal about my guitar, because my aunt gave it to me, and it was my first, not my first real guitar, but the first time I was sort of connecting with an instrument on everyone has their like instrument that's what I learned on, and this was mine, and the strings used to be completely rusted, but I'd play on it anyway. It's like really bad, but I just became really attached to this guitar, so I asked him if he would do a version of The Princess and the Frog on the guitar, but I wanted the princess to be ugly. Because I thought that would give her more character. She's still fun to look at. Pretty ugly is still something to look at. So that's the story of the guitar.
Tim Burton, you need to do a music video, bro.
That's right.
Just saying. And one thing that me and Lily were talking in the car, and curious about, what is your feeling of what your community is these days, given that you've moved, you're in a new city, you're in new places, you're playing for different people all the time. What comes to mind when you think of community for you right now?
I luckily, when I moved from Boston, all of the people that I had known since the very first day of my freshman year in college moved with me. So it was this influx of songwriters and musicians and this wave of people that I've become so close to that when I moved to New York, I wasn't alone at all. I had people to call, help me move, help them move, and that kind of thing. And then from that, everybody sort of had friends from high school that were already living there or people that they knew, and then that community expanded. And then just naturally being in that scene and going to shows and things like, you know, mentioning like growing up with Mara or knowing Chris, just it's like, oh, I know that person too, and then you see it expand that much more. So the community is a mixture of people from Boston, from Oakland, from people already existing in New York that's just solidified itself right in the center of the city, which is great.
It feels like you can kind of play anything. You can kind of remix some random obscure. Was it Two Live Crew? Was that? No, Cool in the Gang.
Yeah.
Two Live Crew though, that would be. I want to hear Jennah Bell, Big Booty Hose. What's the most obscure song that you perform, or the most random song that people would be like, what?
One show, we did the Ice Cream Truck theme song into the Doug Funny theme song into Erykah Badu's Window Seat.
Nice.
Which was pretty wild. People were confused, yet down.
Right, of course.
You do anything with conviction, and people they don't second guess
right.
themselves anymore. They just go with it, which is
right.
nice. So that was probably the most obscure.
You gotta nerd it up sometimes.
Yeah, I mean Doug. I mean, who doesn't like Doug though?
I don't know anybody who doesn't like Doug.
Because Doug's the ultimate swag.
Right. Well, Boy Meets World is the ultimate swag.
I mean, but Doug. Do you remember the episode he had the same outfit in his closet like 12 times,
yes.
and you were just like, he wears the same thing every day. but it's not the same outfit every day.
Right.
That's when I knew what swag was.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Fred's Coachella uniform.
I didn't see Fred's Coachella uniform, but I wouldn't doubt
That's Fred's Coachella uniform.
Then yes, Doug Funny swag.
It's like Bart Simpson or Brother Bear and Berenstain Bears.
If it
Same
works,
outfit,
you know, I'm all about
right.
it. So yeah.
Question.
Given that you've lived in so many different states, neighborhoods, cities, all that good stuff, what do you think is missing in all of these other areas that New York seems to have in terms of gravitating towards live music and supporting independent artists and just impromptu performances that, you know, we don't seem to get? Even though there's a lot of venues for it, but they seem to support it no matter what. But in other cities, not so much.
It's funny, because like Boston, for instance, Boston was really good because there's not a lot of venues, there's very few venues. You have a lot of people rocking like the house parties or the house concerts, which is so cool because that's a personal sort of engagement with an artist that you don't necessarily get in New York. But New York, for instance, with all of these venues, just the amount of people sort of dictates how much support you're getting, because the city mind just naturally moves faster than the country mind. It's constant stimulation, the need for new things or new artists and stuff like that. So people are supportive, but I think it essentially comes from their own desire to want something new. And when you have that many people, you have to just keep it moving like that. So and then the support itself, it's just an arts community. There's tons and tons of galleries. The spoken word scene is emerging. The music scene has always been there. It's a writer's haven. It just caters to every kind of artist. And I think Oakland does too, in a sense. It's just the pace isn't as quick here. It's like you can still get around and get to venues, but then again, stuff closes down here. New York is all night, every day, never stops. So it is essentially the place to go if that's like the energy that you're needing. And that's sort of what I needed coming from Boston. It was just too slow of a pace. But I got a lot of personal playing in relationships and was able to harness and perfect a lot of the performance pieces in Boston before I moved to New York.
Completely other place. And so it feels like, though you may take pieces of it, you're sort of creating this fantasy reality of in Jennah Bell's world of what your music is going to create for people and what spaces it's going to open up for people. So I'm curious, in your world, who is king, who is queen, who is court jester?
I mean, king in my world is probably the magic aspect. It's like that's what people connect to the most in my writing is the fantastical, which is like very real. Either way, it's the same thing. It's just people really like when something seems like it's not real. And if you describe king in my world is like never lose the part of the magic that's very real or very unreal. And then I guess queen in my world is just to stay open-minded, and it's rough, but like allow yourself to be hurt and allow yourself to be happy and allow yourself to feel what everybody else is feeling.